You know why I love hair or hairdressing is that you can basically recreate or restyle your hair with some sort of heat styling tool that can transform your look from ordinary to extraordinary. And in today's video, I'm gonna show you 4 different styles on 3 different heads of hair. They're all shags, by the way, that are going to help you transform your look. If you've maybe been in a rut or whatever it is, but in today's video, I hope you're ready because it is gonna be awesome. I will see you in the video. All right, guys, so I think you guys are familiar with this. If you are not familiar with this specific curtain fringe with a shag, we're gonna go ahead and link that video right up here. Check that out if you have not checked that out. So on this specific head right through here, we are going to crimp it. Old school crimp it. Why would you want to old school crimp it? Well, number 1, volume, number 2, texture, and number 3, why would you not? You know what I mean? Okay, there's some basic rules you want to think about and some basic things you want to do before you're about to crimp. Okay, so number 1, right? Now I have not done anything to this head of hair since I cut it in my previous video. So there's like hairspray in here, there's all sorts of stuff in here. So I don't need to add anything to this hair as is. But if this hair was freshly clean and shampooed, I would wanna make sure I add some sort of heat protectant, some sort of hairspray, something to help kind of protect the hair between the heat styling tool and the fabric of the hair, okay? So that's number 1. Another thing to consider when you are crimping hair is you're not going to be going for something really subtle to where you're looking to just blend in with everybody else. If you're going for that kind of look, I probably wouldn't recommend crimping. If you're going for something a little bit more loud and like, yo, what's up? Then I would suggest crimping your hair, okay? When you are going to start crimping, one of the things you want to consider is if you're going to be crimping, you don't really want to go any wider than the actual section right through here, and you really don't want to go any deeper than the actual plates itself. I mean, you can, just if you're going through a larger section of hair, you're going to have to stamp down a lot harder. So we're gonna go ahead and put that crimp right in there. We're gonna press that down just like so. And we're gonna hold that on, and you're gonna probably see some steam coming up. That steam is actually from the product we had in there before. And you can kind of see those ridges just like that. And then you want to line up your ridges. We're gonna crimp down. Oh yeah. And you can see that steam coming through just like that. Keep going, line those up. Hold on to that. Now, as you work down your section, your hair's probably gonna get a little bit thinner. You don't have to keep it on as long, okay? Which is kind of fun. Look at that texture right through there. You know what's the cool thing about crimping is that I do a lot of editorial shoots. Now, crimping is some texture that I might throw in somebody's hair to kind of alter and change their texture, make it bigger, frothier, things like that. So you can actually keep it just like this, or you could brush this out and kind of make it frizzy. I mean, I used to hate frizzy texture hair, but you know what? I've grown to love and really appreciate kind of frizzy, frothy texture, especially if it's done in a very systematic way. Now you can see how thick that section is. I'm gonna make that just a little bit thinner. Now the reason for that, because if you're working in too thick of sections, it's going to take a little bit more to get that crimper in close to that scalp. Now, if you're doing this on a real person, this potential steam right through here could steam really close to the scalp, and it probably could be not too fun. So just keep that in mind. So you might need to bring that crimper out just a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up with a little bit of B-roll. Enjoy it, let's do that. So when you get done crimping, right, there's one of two options. You can either leave it as is and not brush it out at all, or you can brush it out. I personally am gonna brush it out. I'm gonna brush out one side first, and so you can kind of see the difference on really what would be maybe ideal for you to do. So I'm gonna brush out the right side right here. Now, how I'm gonna do this first off is I'm gonna start off underneath and start by kind of like just brushing out that section. You can start to see how some of that hair just naturally kind of explodes out, which is really kind of cool. So again, when you start to crimp, it's really gonna kind of frizz out that actual texture itself. Before, as is, just kind of brushing this out, you can kind of see how big this style is getting, and you can see kind of how frothy it is in this area. Especially having that light come from behind, the texture looks absolutely amazing. And you can see how, of course, this is kind of like gonna be traditionally like 80s, like right through here. This is going to add a lot more kind of editorial flavor. You start to photograph that, like this would be super amazing. So I'm gonna use one of my favorites. This is from Bumble & Bumble. This is that texture spray. We're gonna go ahead and kind of spray this in here and kind of give it a little bit of separation here. I mean, I love it. I like things more wild, kind of crazy. This is super fun. This is also super fun through here. But again, just to show you the difference of kind of playing with some of this texture. Now, I'm not going to brush this out, but I'm going to kind of finger through it just a little bit, keep it more separated, just like that. Put a little bit of product in there, and I can kind of show you how you can kind of play with that texture. And the cool thing about this is that now you still have some of those pieces put together like that. And again, this is for something super fun. You're gonna go out, you want something a little bit more wild, something a little bit more standoffish, and we can kind of bring that crimp back into style. Again, this was big back in the 80s, and it's for the people that are watching that know, for the young people, they're like, what is that tool? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and link my favorite below. Get it? If you don't have it, it's a fun alternative to kind of, instead of just doing your traditional beach waves, this is a really cool, fun texture to kind of play around with. Let's move on to the next style. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let's do that. On this style, I'm gonna be showing you guys something on how to work with, naturally curly or wavy texture. Now, how I came about this specific style was something I used on myself. Now, when my hair was like a little bit longer, or even kind of how it is now, but sometimes when I sleep on my hair, I will notice that one side will always kind of shrink up a little bit more. This style doesn't have that issue, but I'm gonna show you how to soften up this curl by using a flat iron, but not using a flat iron. So we're gonna use a flat iron, not in the traditional way. That's what I meant to say. So if you have wavy or curly hair and it's just a little bit too curly and you wanna soften it up, this specific trick works wonders. So let's go ahead and start that. The tools you're gonna need for this style is some clips and a flat iron, okay? We don't really even wanna use a comb with this, so just a flat iron and some clips. So I'm not really even gonna be using like a comb to part this, I'm just using kind of like my finger. Now we can take rather large sections when this happens. So what you wanna do is we want to take a flat iron like so, and we're gonna be using this flat iron. Now, say for example, if you have too much curl or it's kind of shrinking up, you wanna take this section and we're just going to stamp down with it just like this. Now we would essentially use this kind of how you would use this like a crimper, but you're using a flat iron to kind of flatten those waves and curl. You still have that texture in there, but you're just kind of flattening that, which is awesome. So you can almost still, again, have that texture in there. Now it's just not as big and as wide. So you can see how this specific section right through here has got a ton more volume in here. Now we take that section, now we're not pulling out the curl, we're just kind of setting that in there and we're just kind of flattening it almost. Now as you flatten that all the way down, you can see how it just kind of decreased that actual volume there. And so you create this texture, again, very modern, you know, to where it's almost kind of lived in, I guess you could say, to where like you still kind of have like that natural texture that you've kind of put in there, but you're just literally kind of flattening it a little bit more. And I'm not keeping that flat iron on there. I'm just like lightly kind of setting it down each section. Okay, so look how super kind of cool that is. Again, like you're just creating like this kind of like almost kind of matted texture a little bit more right through this area. And you can see how this is like naturally styled. If you guys want links to how I cut and style this, I'm gonna go ahead and link that video right over here. But you can see how you can just alter how you use one specific tool to kind of still keep the texture, but mat it just a little bit. Again, it's a little bit more kind of rock and roll, which I really kind of dig. So I hope you guys enjoyed this alternate way on how you can use a flat iron to alter your wave and or curl, whatnot. Now, how I came about this technique, again, my hair would shrink up when I would sleep. And anybody that's got curly hair kind of knows this. I would have to slide into the pillow, right? I couldn't just like plop down, like I would have to kind of slide and make sure my hair was tucked in there. But before I discovered that, I would do this to kind of just compress and flatten my wave and my curl in my hair. I'm gonna show you guys something that I would use traditionally, something like this when your hair is wet, but this is from R&Co. And this is like for shine and moisture. And so, because sometimes curly and or wavy hair can get a little bit dry looking, and using something like this technique can get it to have a little bit more of a matte finish a little bit, because again, you're just kind of flattening some of that curl. So you can take a little bit of this product. Now, what you want to do is you want to emulsify this around, and you can see how I'm actually gonna kind of pull on this a little bit. Now you're gonna create this cool texture by adding a little bit more of that product to create a little bit more separation in there. Of course, this is like bigger and frothy. You know, again, this is just to kind of show you the alternate way of doing something like this. Now, on this specific style, we are going to be using two different irons that are going to create very similar looks. Again, they're not the same. One is slightly different than the other, but just to show you variety in kind of what we're doing. And again, we're still working on this shag shape as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna work with the first iron right now. We're gonna do on the left side. Second iron, we're gonna work on the right side. Now, of course, keep in mind that there is product in here from before, so we don't have to apply anything, But if you are working from really clean hair, I would suggest putting some sort of heat protectant and or hairspray on here. So this specific iron creates more of a figure 8. So what you want to do is we're going to put this iron in here just like so. We're going to wrap over the top just like that. We're going to wrap over the bottom, wrap over the top just like that. And we're going to leave the hair just like that. So you're going to create a figure 8 in the hair. Let that steam come in here for just a few minutes. Not few minutes, I'm just kidding. And then let's go ahead and just slide that right out, just like that. What we're doing is you're literally creating like this figure 8, just like that, okay? Now I'm gonna show you kind of how this looks. We're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna brush that right out. Now you're gonna create this cool kind of wave, just like that. So that's to kind of give you kind of how that looks. So let's go ahead and start working up this side. On this next side, I'm gonna be using a traditional kind of like waver, and I'm sure you guys have kind of seen these, whatnot. A waver, you know, if you have not used something like this, you can actually work with a little bit bigger sections. Now, what you wanna do is, so we're gonna go in here. Now, depending on, I usually start off on the bottom, just like that. And so I'll usually have the plates right above. You're literally just getting like a really soft wave in the hair. When I'm using a waver, I'm actually gonna be using a little bit more of a hairspray on there just because I want to get a little bit more impact, a little bit more intensity with the actual wave itself. And so I went in and I sprayed a little bit of Couture hairspray from Kerastase. Now Couture is a little bit stronger of a hairspray, and then I'll usually just like blow on it just a little bit or let it cool to get a little bit more intensity. And as you can see, as I kind of hold on to it, I will actually kind of shrink that back up in there to help get a little bit more intensity into that. As you guys can see, of course, this is gonna be like a traditional waver, right? Now, the thing I want you to keep in mind is that as I was doing this, I was using a hairspray with this, of course, heat protectant, but then as I did each section, I kind of pushed that iron back so you're creating even more wave. Of course, it doesn't have to be this intense, you don't have to use a heat styling product, whatever it is, so you don't have to have that traditional kind of like look to it. Now, of course, with me being kind of who I am, I like to put my fingers through it. I like to brush things. I really like it to kind of come alive. I don't like to keep it, you know, as formed as it is. So the first section, I'm gonna work on this side. Come on over here. Let's just kind of start brushing some of this stuff out. Now I'm gonna put my brush right into some of this hair. Now I'm gonna start kind of just brushing this texture out. Now you can start to see how cool this is like looking. And you're creating this kind of natural like wave, traditionally how you would see on the right side. But with it being like a figure 8 iron that helps kind of create that texture. And you can see how it's not so perfect. That's really what I love about doing like a figure 8 kind of look like this. Now, of course, as I keep kind of playing around with this, you can kind of see how this texture, it's not fully curled all the way to that bottom area because I don't really want to burn my fingers, all that good stuff. So we're just gonna leave this kind of as is, just like that. So we're not really gonna do anything with this just yet. I'm gonna go ahead and brush out the other side, kind of just softening up this texture. And when I go to brush through this, as you can start to see, I'm really kind of I'm just wanting to kind of soften up that texture right at that root area. So as I start to kind of brush this out, you can see how you're still trying to get this wave pattern in there, but I'm trying to lose that initial kind of like that separation right at that root area. Textures are very similar, but very different at the same time. So without further ado, I want to apply some product in here to take it from ordinary to extraordinary. Because again, we just have a hairspray on this side. We have previous product in here from before. So I really want to bring this and take this from, the kind of dry finish to a little bit more refined. We're gonna take that same product, it's called Waterfall, it's from R&Co. So we're gonna take this same product. Now this particular product would traditionally be used on wet hair. Now we're gonna transform it and we're gonna use it on dry hair. What's really cool is like when you start to use a product that actually has a little bit of moisture in it, you can use this product and you can almost reignite that bounce and that texture back into the hair, which is really kind of fun. This product is not sticky at all. The really, really cool thing I want you to pay attention to is when I had brushed this out, some of you might have been thinking, wow, where's he gonna take this? What's going on with the hair? I mean, I was even thinking of myself. I was like, this is gonna be a disaster, but you know what? I'm gonna save myself, and when you apply a little bit of product and you can kind of bring back that texture, don't ever feel bad to brush out texture, because again, I want it to have more of a lived-in kind of look to it. Now that separation that you can create with that product just makes it that much more interesting. You can see two very unique styling patterns that you would create with two different types of iron. You've got your wave over here, you've got your traditional figure 8 right over here on this side. Guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed what I had to share today. If you made it this far, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. If you guys aren't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. If you guys want to be notified, go ahead and click that little bell button and it'll be notified when my videos come out, which is every Monday and Thursday. I hope you learned something new. If you did, share it, try it, message me. Let me know, guys. My name is Jake Thompson Hair. I will see you in the next video.